Never seen a smile so big on my little Lord lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my baby, I make plans for 7:45, and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Yeah, baby.
Yes, sir. Well, good evening, folks, and anyone who spent most of the weekend watching the great snow leopard take home. Just what a coveted honor just to be a part of. Anyway, we are going to get to that and so much more. As I said, this show is dedicated to the one and only Jeff "Gussy" Gustafson for managing to pull home what seemed to be an unattainable trophy from a Canadian standpoint. And we'll get to some of the history of the Bassmaster Classic real soon. Jim's going to be here, obviously, to recount what was an incredible journey that both Jim and I had down to also obtain what to me is the ultimate honor if you're a big Jim McLaughlin or if you're any angler for that matter. But the fact that Jim is being recognized for this award was a true testament to everything that he's done in our community and our industry. And I'll tell you, can't thank him enough for all he's done. Then Lawrence is going to be around for a tidbit of some news. And then at the end, the anchor is actually going to be Jim and Jay returning. We're going to dissect and do our very best to try and bring you all of the background information, or at least some of the stuff that maybe if you weren't watching it sort of from front to back, you missed. So we're going to bring up some highlights. I'm sure Gussy is still partying. But again, on behalf of our CFN community, CFN network, OFC Nation, and all of our friends that are a part of both communities, a big congratulations to the one and only Jeff Gustafson for making us all so proud to be Canadians and so proud to be friends, acquaintances, or just if you knew him, if you know him. To bring that trophy home to Canada is a true testament to the kind of person he is and the kind of angler he is. So before we get to that, let's get to a few announcements. Of course, big Steve Shaw, thanks, buddy. You've definitely held down the fort. I want to also thank our good buddy Walter, who managed to put together this right after it was done. So apropos. And as I said, I absolutely love seeing stuff like this. But a big shout out again to our editing team, as well as Big Jeff Gustafson for managing to take home the Bassmaster Classic. But again, just to go through some of the stuff that we need to talk about, of course, the Winter Fish Fest is now done. Again, I can't say enough about our good friends over at Powell Castings for all that they have done to make the participation worthwhile for our participants. You guys have offered up, all of our sponsors have offered up some incredible stuff. So a big shout out to them, as well as all other sponsors. Your prizes will be going out as time goes on. We have a whole mess of them that are already gone out, but stay tuned and be patient because we will be sending out more as they become available. Of course, the 5th annual CFN retreat up at Horwood Lake Lodge. Please, 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 please make sure you reach out to Doris and Warren if you want to spend a week in August up with us at Horwood Lake Lodge. Maybe you want to experience some northern fishing because you've never experienced it before. Well, I'll tell you, everything that you could possibly want in a fly-in, a northern experience, or just hanging out with a good group of folks like CFN, we'd love to have you. So make sure you reach out to Doris and Warren so that you can enjoy a trip just like this. Can't say enough about Horwood. Also can't say enough about this fantastic destination, Camp McIntosh, which will be the host of the second annual OFC Nation in September 22nd to the 24th. Please reach out to Andre or Tracy at 519-278-4429 or at www.campmacintosh.com. As I said, September 22nd to 24th. Love to see you there. If you're not there, well, you're not going to be square. We're just going to miss you. We're really going to miss you. We'd love to see all of our CFNers there. I hear Manny's coming. Yeah, baby. If Manny's with us, big shout out and hello to Bob Bissonette, who's watching. Jay Kerman, who's also watching. Corey's in the house. Mark Wolf's here. Marcus Fisher, you're going to love this. It's Baz, and more Baz. Ed McKenzie's in the house. How you doing? Ebazane, how you? Nice to see you. Lloyd, thanks for all the sharing. Of course, Richard Dunlop as well. You guys do a fantastic job of not only sharing our material, of course, our sponsors and partners. It means the world to see that. It means the world to have it done. I don't know, it just gives you a nice warm feeling inside. But needless to say, if you want to join any of us at that or any of our meet and greets, please stay tuned to our CFN Facebook page. You'll see all the announcements upcoming, including the registration to our CFN Live. If you want to take home some pretty cool prizes that are going to be offered up in the coming months, you will want to register. You don't have to watch. You're more than welcome to come and just participate. Leave a comment, maybe a suggestion or three. We really appreciate everything and anything that we get in our comment section. But if you want to register for a prize like a Tony Cisanowski will, I would imagine Tony's going to be at the top of the list for that. But stay tuned to that. We will, of course, be registering all of our CFNers. Well, listen, right now, the only other thing that I wanted to talk about was our good buddy, Steve McKinnon, out in Saskatchewan. He is a beloved CFNer who's going through a tough time. He's part of our Saskatchewan chapter. It was Walter who brought it to our attention that Stephen might require some help. Reaching out to Stephen, and I'm really glad Stephen's reached out to us. We have managed to scrape together $100 so far, in which CFN will match dollar for dollar. So as it is right now, we have $200 for Stephen McKinnon. We'd love to make it $500. So as I said, if you have an extra bit of coin lying around and need transfer either to myself or Walter, please get a hold of us. But as I said, CFN is going to match dollar for dollar everything that is raised in honor of Steve McKinnon. And as I said, anybody who knows him and knows what he's going through, he just needs to get over that hump. Once he gets his feet underneath him, he's able to get back to work. All will be okay. Obviously, he's still going to be dealing with the aftermath of his operation, which thankfully, knock on wood, has gone well. So we have a lot to look forward to and be thankful for. But Steve, we're thinking about you. And as I said, anybody who wants to donate, as I said, thanks to everybody so far who's donated $100. Because CFN is matching dollar for dollar, we have now raised $200 to Stephen, and we will be glad to hand that off to him to help him through the rest of his days. As I said, the only other event that is upcoming, and this is, I don't want to say last, but not least in any means, of course, is CanCast. If you are coming, we'd love to see you there. Our OFC Nation booth will be front and center like all the rest. And I would say to leave this with, some heightened anticipation of what is coming next. Here's a cool video for our folks at CanCast who we'll see this Sunday. And in honor of Jeff Gustafson's gear, I want to play this before we talk to our good buddy, Big Jim McLaughlin. This is all about his series of rods and what got him the Bassmaster Classic.
Honoring past achievements as we step into the future. Elevate, innovate, reimagine. Make the best better. That's what we do. radically redefined. The NRX Plus is the culmination of our obsessive drive to forge the most advanced fishing tools on the planet.
There he is, the one and only big, and I should say Hall of Famer,
Yo.
Jim McLaughlin. Wow. Boom shakalaka. Yes. That's all I could say, Jim. You've said so much. You've thanked so many people. Dude,
That one I won't give away.
No, I can't say that I would ever expect you to do that. We had some really cool shots, especially the night that you received that. You were holding it tight, and at the end of it, I do know now what you were wishing for, and I dare say you got your wish after receiving your inductee plaque to the Hall of Fame. Our good buddy Jeff Gustafson managed to win.
Yeah, no, ever since he was a little Jeffy, I've been. Look, I'm going to get emotional.
It's good, man.
I'm in a state of emotional disrepair. I've never been like this in my life. I'm, they talk about fishermen spinning out when things don't go right. That never happened to me once when I fished, not once. And it took nothing to do with fishing, or nothing to do with me fishing. Everything else that, has made me like this. But I love it. I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's just something that, I can't tell you the experience of watching him grow up and then go on to this. Seeing him last night, I was just sitting there. I was coming apart at the seams. I almost had to turn it off. My guts. I literally thought I was gonna throw up on the living room carpet.
It's all right. Wow.
Even my wife. We're going to get a prescription down again. Tammy watched it on her phone the whole way there and the whole way back. We just got back in time. We got back with just in time for I think it was the top 9. And then they did the Super 6. But holy jumping. When she watches it, because she's dealt with him so much. She's probably dealt with him more on the phone to do with just fishing than I have.
I have to say this, dude, now that you've mentioned that about Tammy. And of course, Tammy has a lot more skin in the game than, say, my wife when it comes to my fishing career and the fishing industry. But I had to take a double look. We're sitting on the couch, and she's like, well, aren't you going to look for it? I said, what? The link to watch the weigh-in. You want to watch it? She says, absolutely. I keep hearing all kinds of things between you and Jim and Jeff Gustafson, whoever that is. But she was just going on and on. I'm like, okay, well, I'll find the link. And we watched it, like you said, from start to finish. And I think she cheered just as hard as I did when he was named the winner. So whether you are an angler, whether you're not, whether you're a true Canadian, whether you're not, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, watching that unfold right to the very end, whether you knew in your gut that it was a done deal or not, watching it to the very end, I'm sure a lot of us felt the same way you did, Jim.
Yeah, as long, I knew from looking at the 2 fish he caught, they marked them both as 3 pounds. And I said, no. I said to Tammy, when I saw him catch the second one, I said, no, that fish is got to be 3 pounds, 5 ounces, maybe 3.6, like coming to 3.5. And the first one, I said just a little less. And as it turned out, he was like 3/4 of a pound above where it said. But regardless of that, he would have still won.
Yeah.
So he didn't, it was, but man, who would have ever thought that you were going to win being short 2 fish?
And I can't imagine, you talk about having to hurl and dry heave. I can't imagine the last 2-3 hours, if not the entire last day, after catching his second and last fish of the day, which was fairly early from what I understand in the morning. I can't imagine the gut wrench that he went through the rest of the day.
He thought it was done.
Yeah.
He thought he blew it. Yeah.
Wow.
He thought he blew it. And there's a video with a guy saying to him at the dock in the morning, and I didn't think it was very nice that the guy would say it to him. The guy said to him, boy, it's yours to lose, eh?
Yep.
That to me was just I don't know who it was. I just heard the voice, He was talking to the guy. He said, well, I don't plan on doing it. He said something back to him that was really positive. But I mean, you saw on Thursday evening, he comes in at like an hour late because he was kind of busy. You're at the Bassmaster Classic, he comes in and apologizes for being late.
True Canadian right there, baby.
True
True
and then a
Canadian.
lot of people have asked me in the video at the beginning, they have me pointing. I'm pointing like this. And somebody said to me, is that a new thing with you pointing? And they get pictures of you because of the one from the ice fishing show where I'm pointing. It was a really good picture. Peter Young took of me where I'm pointing out to the little girl.
Yeah.
Who I was pointing at, it was Cooper.
Yep.
I saw his face between two shoulders. And like he's growing now. He's a lot taller. But he was standing beside a couple of big dudes. And he looked, all I saw was his face. So that's why I went, Cooper.
So we have that video. We have you actually reaching out and pointing and mentioning that it is Cooper that you were looking at. Again, thanks to all of you who are joining late. Ed, Pete, Sparkus, Alicia, and Scott McKenzie's here. We got a whole bunch of you here. But as I said, if you didn't know, obviously it was the Bassmaster Classic this past weekend. Jim and I started out a little bit early in our journey. We were heading down on Wednesday. And of course, the houses never look so good than to have. I actually had a bunch of my buddies come around and take pictures of your truck because they didn't believe that I'm serious. I'm like, guys, I'm serious. It's out on the driveway. If you want to take a picture of it. So there's about a handful of them that took pictures. But as I said, this was what I would say was a very emotional night. Watching you get revered by all of your colleagues, your past friends, long-standing contacts in the fishing industry, just listening to how people really appreciated you and what you've done in this industry. And tell us a little bit about the award first, Jim, and what it means to you.
It's not something that you ever look for. And I'm blessed to have been put in the Hall of Fame in Canada, the Rick Ansbury Award, which I still have. Well, here, hang on for a second. This is the one I have on the wall from Canada.
Awesome.
It's the Rick Ansbury Award, and they both mean just as much. But the shocking thing, Gussy for PM, the funny thing is that getting recognized in the States for something and getting recognized in Canada, when you're Canadian and they recognize you there, that to me is I don't know, the coup de grace. It's just so much bigger, and being only the third individual to ever get the award. And there's actually 4 of them been given out. The other one was to a giant bass club somewhere in the States that has done just so much good. But they're giant. They have like thousands of members, and they're probably like a university football team financially. You know what I mean? They got so many people connected. They can do so much. But it's just. And then when Steve Bowman clarified to everybody that this, really wasn't about the fish I've caught or the tournaments I won. It was everything else. And that's what Tammy said when she watched it, she screamed. Like she was so happy that somebody addressed that, and Steve, and they understand that. It's not just for the fish. And because of that, it means so much more to me. Like people have no concept of I dare say hundreds of Saturdays that I gave up to not go fishing, to go to a kid's event. The times I've gone and given a kid a rod and reel that, the kid got beat up at the dock and his rod stolen. Like I've done that, 50 times in my life. The number of people that I've gone to talk to in a hospital that had cancer. When I got the cancer, somehow they asked me to come talk to the person, when young Aiden Pyramid, what's that? The Wish Foundation.
Yeah, Make-A-Wish
I got a
Foundation.
call one day from the Wish Foundation in Ottawa, and the lady says to me, she says, Jim, we would, Aiden Pyramid, you don't know him, but she said he knows you. He's met you at Bennett's Bait and Tackle, and she said he he's asked that we contact you, that he would like you to come with him. He's chosen a fishing shopping spree, and you're the guy that he wants to be part of with him. And I said, wow, Daniel Alfredson was on that list, was he not? Like, they told me this when I was talking to her after. And I said, well, Daniel Alfredson eat my fishing rod. Like I couldn't believe that. The kid picked me over Daniel Alfredson right in his heyday to go do this with. So I talked with him, and then I found out that he had cancer. So I said to him, when he was going for one of his treatments, I said to him, do you want me to come? I'll take you to one of your treatments. And he said, wow, that would be awesome. He said, could you meet me there? I said, yeah. So I'm sitting in front of the hospital, and I'm talking to Mercer on the phone. And he says, dude, I can't believe this. He said, you sound like you're scared shitless. And I said, well, sound like it. I am. I'm terrified. I've never met the kid. I got to go in there and get some poor kid that looks like he's got about 15 minutes left to live. It's just going to kill me. It's going to tear me apart, And so I went in, and the chemo nurse said to me after, she said, wow, you must be special. I said, why? I said, I just met him this morning. And she says to me, well, he's never let anybody else in the room when he did the chemo.
Wow.
And he sort of he took you with him when he went. And we sat and talked I think his chemo was about 40 minutes or so. And we sat and talked, and then he went to be with his buddies in the afternoon. And then I met him back at Le Baron in Ottawa, and he spent his $5,000 on him and his buddies. Wow. And I still talk to him. I talked to him about a week ago. He's a big, strong young kid with a beautiful girlfriend now. And I went to a cottage thing that they did, and did a presentation for them and about 40 people. The only thing about that was I didn't realize that they did a thing where everybody brought all the fish in that they caught, and they had a fish fry. So I'm standing there, and he's on a little private lake, and they're throwing 4-pound bass in the bucket to eat. Wow. It was so funny, but it's what it is. I mean, they're not breaking the law; they're just harvesting some fish, eh? They just, I've always had that little rule, and Tammy coined it to me, was that we don't eat bass because we get paid to catch them. It was what it was at the time, eh? But just things like that, and I've done so many of them. I've met people. I've gone to 4 kids' things in a day, several times. Literally getting up at 6, driving for 2 hours, be there for an hour, drive an hour. I finished up one that I remember. I finished up in North Bay, and then this was like 6 o'clock or something, and I gave out the awards at a big kids thing, and then it was 11 o'clock when I got home. So you're out of the house doing that, and I just do so much of that, and it's I didn't do it because I had to. I did it because I wanted to. As soon as I hear there's something, I got to jump in. And I know in the last couple of years, because my mobility's come into question a little bit, I have backed off a little bit on it. I still try to show up and give the kids some stuff or something, because, man, the kids got to know the Shimano bag. One of my tackle bags, I use it. I have it filled up with stuff, and I let them reach in and get something, But yeah, no, it's been a wondrous ride, and it'll be with me forever. This is one you'll never forget, or you can't shake. I'll never look back. God knows how old I get, but I'll never look back and say, "Oh, I forgot about that one."
No.
There'll
be lots of us around you to remind you if that ever were to happen, Jim. But, as a surprise, because unfortunately we didn't do a great job. We tried to bring it live to you, but the audio just wasn't the greatest. In that room, that was standing room only, it was shoulder to shoulder. We had no idea that this event that took place on the Thursday evening was just for Jim.
Yeah,
to have
I had no idea.
200 people standing in that room looking at you, Jim. I mean, I can't imagine what that feeling was like.
Yeah, it's I've done presentations before, like 3,500 people in arenas and things, big fish and things, years ago. And I'd never, once I started doing it, it means nothing. Like I joked about the first time I did one was at the Civic Center in Ottawa at the Ottawa Sportsman Show. And Tom Brook was there, and he almost had to take a cattle prod to me to get me to go up. Like, I was terrified. I was terrified to go, eh? And, once he did a few, and I actually have a picture of that with me and Rocky Crawford. The two of us are standing on the stage, like we're looking up at all of them. We didn't know what to do, you know. So we just did what we were supposed to do. You have to start somewhere.
Well, that's awesome. Well, listen, as a treat to all you CFNers, and I want a big shout out, thank you to Bassmaster for allowing this all to happen. They have been very gracious in allowing us the ability to use some of their material and content for the sake of promoting one of yours, Big Jim McLaughlin. Here is his acceptance speech.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
When I first got here, Bowman gave me this golden chalice. And I said, I know he wants something. I just found out what he wants. I'll make it real short and sweet because we should hear from Jim. But I'll be honest, I met Jim when I was 13 years old. And a lot of times, people say don't meet your heroes. Don't meet, it'll ruin it. And everybody's had that experience. Jim took me fishing when I was 13 years old, and not only did he impress me when I was a little kid, he's more of a hero of mine today than he was back then. So sometimes you should meet your heroes, and sometimes your heroes. And the greatest thing about Jim is, for those of you who don't know him, he is that guy that everybody in the entire Canadian fishing industry feels like they have a special relationship with, and they do have a special relationship with them. It's amazing what he has done, and I won't tell you about him exposing himself to me when I was young. It's a great story, so we're going to honor him right now. He's exposed the sport to a lot of pros and a lot of people, and his impact will be felt literally for generations to come, because I'm living proof of that, and I'm just one of the many people that he's inspired. Congratulations.
Thank you, my friend. That's it. I'm never lost for words. You know, people say that all the time. Well, these guys all know I'm not. I am. I'm like totally lost for words. First of all, thanks to everybody from the Hall of Fame, John and Barbara. You guys, you know, this is like a, I don't know, it's like I've won, you know, boats and trucks and Canadian championships and everything else. And they don't even, they're like a distant second now to this. I want to thank my wife and my family. I asked my wife to marry me a week after I met her. We're 40 years in with a bunch of kids. It's I don't know why I ever did that, but I was always impulsive. If I thought for some reason there was a fish on a rock 5 miles away and I had to go catch it, I just went to catch it. It was what it was, you know, it was that kind of thing. So I know you guys, I'm going to be as quick as I can. So I'm coming home from high school, June of Hi Cooper, how are you, buddy? June of 1971, I'm coming home from high school. I wanted to be the football team quarterback. They said, no, you have to be the front line. Because 55 years ago, I was a pretty big guy back then. There was big people now, but it's what it is. So I was coming home, and I stopped at a corner store. And I saw a magazine. It had a picture of Al Lindner on the cover. And he's holding up a great big pike. Now, I had fished a couple of times. Before that. I caught a catfish. It's about this big in the Rideau Canal and some other things. I thought, I'd love to catch fish like that. And that's how I got the interest to fish, because of that. And when the In Fisherman started the magazine, Al still jokes to me about it. I was number 0008 on the membership cards. So don't ever let anybody tell you that. You know, Dave was there. Like one of the things, taking Dave, he was what really made me. Like he wrote me a letter, told me I'm going to be the biggest thing in fishing ever. You know what I mean? Like it's true, honest truth. I'm going to be the biggest thing in fishing ever. And I told him, well, do you want to go fishing with me? And he, are you serious? So I met him not far from where he lives today, in fact, at the end of the island there. And we spent the day out in the boat, and he thoroughly embarrassed me. We only caught one fish, and he caught it. So I hold that against you forever, right? You know, like I'll be dying, they'll be putting me in the ground, they'll be holding one finger up, pointing at. I've been with Shimano for 40 years this year. They are my blood. If you cut my wrist, I bleed blue. One of the reasons, well, the only reason I was there to start was because of Tom. The only reason. He saw in me something, I don't know what it was, but he pushed me. And everybody else at Shimano, right down to the sales guys, I know Lee and There's Billy here, all these guys. But I guess, all there is to it is I truly hope that what I've done inspires others to follow. It really concerns me that I don't see a lot of people. I see a lot of people, they have one big event and they raise the money for cancer, and I almost died from cancer 15 years ago, so I have no problem with people raising money for cancer. But I just don't see anybody really doing what I used to do, or what I continue to do. I had my kids fond at the Ottawa Sportsman Show a couple of weeks ago. We put 800 kids through. I had to sit in the chair the whole time. I couldn't get up and do what I usually do, but we're still there. We took care of the kids, and that's what matters. But I hope that what I've done really inspires people to go out and do more, because you have to give back to it. And I know, like you said about it's something that we all love, and you really need to be a part of it. And last but not least, my buddy Scotty Martin, for offering to drive me down. He just called me right away. He said, "Do it. I'm driving." It's a done deal. Thank you so much. I love you all. I love bass fishing. I love everything you do.
So I have to ask, Jim, with you sound asleep with a smile on your face, is it true you were wishing for a Canadian to win the Bassmaster Classic?
No guff.
Yeah, baby.
That's the first time I've seen that, eh?
Yeah.
I haven't watched it yet. I don't know why. Every time I go to, the phone rings or something happens, I go to do something. Oh.
Yep, dude. It was not easy for all of us who were in attendance to sit back. There was a lot of pauses in your speech. I myself right away thought, well, okay, this is where we all start crying. And on cue, we all did. However, you weren't, and you regained your composure and continued on flawlessly. And as you just saw, put together an incredible speech. To your point, Jim, I don't know that there's anyone that could do the kind of work that you've done, and that's just a true testament to.
Well, like I said, I'm really worried that there's not people that do it, and I understand, because I just got in a gifted position.
Yeah.
I just got in a gifted position, and the way people realize it. I mean, like I told you, I phoned Kim and Dustin at Lucky Strike in Peterborough, and I say, hey, can you guys, can you get some lures for this year for the kids again and whatever? And you show up and they give you a box with 1,000 lures in it. Because they know that they're going to the kids and everything's going to be, like it's just it's overwhelming. I'm just about there again right now.
I can't say I blame you.
I got it ready.
There you go.
You'll hear the great big.
Listen.
Remember when your grandma used to pull the handkerchief out of her sleeve that they'd wipe 400 kids' noses with and wipe yours?
There you go. Well, listen, to basically bring in our next guest and our beloved Lawrence Gunther with some of his news, we'll let you compose yourself, take in the moment. And, of course, this is what we all watched if we were watching GUSSY. And we will talk to you in a second, Jim.
Sure.
He is one of only 2 Canadians to ever win a Bassmaster Elite Series event, fishing his 4th Bassmaster Classic. From Kenora, Ontario, Canada, the great Canadian snow leopard, GUSSY Jeff Gustafson. He has dominated this tournament since day number 1. He has won 6 days of competition on this incredible river. One of these anglers is about to become a Bassmaster Classic champion. For the first time, GUSSY struggles. Just 2 fish today. Needs 5 pounds, 4 ounces. 6 pounds, 13 ounces! 6-13, GUSSY gets it done, and oh Canada, you have a Bassmaster Classic champion!
Welcome, Lawrence.
Wow, eh?
Does that not make you proud?
42
Oh my
pounds,
goodness.
7
Oh my
ounces,
goodness, you
and
know.
for the
But
first time in
was he the
history,
third Canadian
Canada
to ever
has
fish
a
the Classic?
Master Classic champion.
Believe it or not, was the second Canadian angler to fish the Classic. The last time, I forget the last name, I believe was Gibson. It's in one of the videos.
Okay.
They do a historic thing, basically to give us an idea of how close we've come to this unbelievable feat. And the last Canadian that ever fished this tournament, his last name was Gibson. I want to say it was in the 80s, but we'll play the video. But he came dead last. So
wow.
you
Okay.
go from last to first.
Yeah.
Holy
Yeah.
smokes.
And
Yeah.
it's just amazing. I mean, just absolutely amazing. You know, I got to know Jeff a little bit, and I don't claim to be a friend, but we share information, and I've had him on the podcast. So I'm gonna put a link to the podcast I did with Jeff back in January 2019. We talked about, you know, how he prepares to, you know, for his tournaments, the mindset game, the preparation game, you know, and his commitment to conservation. There was a big spread of the Bluefish Radio. If you want to find that, you look on Outdoor Canada magazine. That's the easiest place to find it. They've done a beautiful job presenting that podcast on Outdoor Canada magazine website. And just Google Bluefish Radio, Jeff Gussy, Gustafson, and that link will come up. And yeah, you can read about him and link to the podcast. But just a joy, just such a humble guy to talk to, you know, just an absolutely humble guy. And there he is, you know, driving down from Kenora, you know, and then heading into the States. You imagine the mileage that guy puts on to go from Kenora, Ontario, all the way down to the southern U.S. to fish these tournaments.
And you know, you can tell that he holds a special place in his heart for Tennessee. I think he goes on into one of his interviews that he might actually be looking for a place down there, you know, another residence, if you will, that just because he's fallen in love with that town, and that town has fallen in love with him. But I will say this, on top of the speech, listening to the speech that was given prior to Jim receiving his Hall of Fame plaque, just the number of his fellow colleagues, participants, you know, at the end of the day, as soon as they hit the water, they're all competitive. And as much as they don't wish the worst upon their competitors, they all want to win. But I will say this, you know, whether it be Jim or whether it be Gussy, they hold both those individuals very high in regards, and Gussy and his colleagues that were part of the tournament, whether they were in the final on Sunday or some of the prelims leading up to it. Everybody has the utmost respect for for Gussy, and that doesn't come easily. That comes with an awful lot of work too. But if you ever saw Gussy conduct himself in public, you'd understand it's just human nature for him. It's second hat for him.
Oh yeah. But you know what a turnout, you know, 4 anglers from Canada down there for that event, and Big Jim getting that Meritorious Service Award, you know, from the Hall of Fame, you know, like, you know, like the Meritorious Service, that's the icing on the cake, right? That's just,
it's
amazing.
Equivalent. I mean, and I hate to say it's equivalent because is as prestigious as the Rick Amesbury Award is up here in Canada, and it's a very prestigious award to be awarded and receive up here in Canada. Not to take anything away from that, but to receive a Hall of Fame induction down in the States for the bass, I mean, it doesn't get any bigger than that.
Oh yeah. No, this like Canada we've never could stand prouder on the bass fishing circuit, right? Than this past week. I mean, really, just so much to make us proud, and we got so much, you know, so many people to thank for that, right? I mean, so many people work so hard. Like, I mean, Big Jim's talking about, you know, his 50 years in the fishing industry. You know, he's made it his whole life has been in fishing, and the magazine and the story he ran for a while, and he had a little fishing show for a while, and, you know, and all the stuff he's done for kids and youth over the years, and all the seminars, you know, millions of seminars. He's made fishing interesting for a lot of people. He got people hooked into fishing like no one else can.
Well, you know, show of hands. I for one, you know, it was so funny because on the way down, he kept referring to himself as the walleye guy, and I hate to say this, but I do too. When I fell in love with Jim as an angling guru. He was well into his toothy critters. He loved his walleye, and it wasn't until he started to fish the some of the bass tournaments here in Canada that you got to see how great of an angler he was. It wasn't just, on TV shows or the odd snippet here or there. He was very prevalent on a lot of in a lot of the tournaments and did really, really well on the Canadian trail. So again, this could go on and on all night about me, Jim, and I have to say it was an absolute honor to share in this and be a part of it with everybody else that has had a big stake in it, who probably feel the same way I do. We can't thank Jim enough for what he's done in the industry, but a big shout out to Shimano, for putting us up and treating us like royalty. And as I said, I wasn't the one receiving the award, but the way we were treated down there in Tennessee and by Bassmaster and our folks, our beloved folks over at Shimano, you would never have known. So again, I can't thank the folks at Shimano nor the folks at Bassmaster. There's a couple down there, John in particular. I did end up going to Bucky's. John, if you're listening, what an experience that is. That's a whole nother show. But needless to say, as I said, we got welcomed with open arms, and I was extremely proud to be a Canadian and part of that group, that contingent that goes down and that went down and participated in this tournament. And all, of course, for the Ontario and Canadian folks that followed and had Airbnbs like Moose and the gang. There was a huge group of Canadians down there, and I don't know. As I said, I could go on and on about how proud.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and just fantastic, and CFNers too. Like the support the CFN community gives to these guys and the fishing industry as a whole from across Canada. And Scotty, you're the head of that whole thing, right? And so you got to take a bow yourself, my friend, because what you're doing is you're really providing the network to connect people and make sure this information is flowing in real time, and people are have this real truly Canadian branded sort of opportunity to stay informed and look what we're celebrating through CFN now tonight, right? All these amazing achievements.
Well, dude, I'm not crying. You're crying. No, I'm
proud.
I fully appreciate that. And as I said, we are only as good as our weakest link. And as far as I can see, there are none here at CFN. It is a team effort. It is a family thing. And again, with everything that you guys and gals out there doing in our fishing community, whether it's catching big fish, teaching others to catch fish, or just getting folks into fishing, just getting to experience angling. I don't care if you're a Jeremy Blencoe at the edge of a dock and somebody comes up and asks you a question. You're a Keith Duster who might be able to share a few tips, tricks, and techniques. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you've got a Hall of Fame award or you've just got a rod in a tackle box. You are as influential in this industry, no matter where you're standing or what you're holding. And just remember that. Don't ever forget how important it is and how valuable it is that you give whatever advice it is that you give to your fellow anglers, and what you mean in the grand scheme of things. Because as I said, some of us get awards and some of us just get great comments like that, Lawrence. Either way, it means just the same, and I can't.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? It's all in time, my friend. All in time, and CFN is growing, and it's just continuing to gain popularity, and it's just such a class act, and everyone involved with it, just classy people. I love them. Real grassroots. I love it. Hey, do you want to get into some news here? I know you got to get.
I was just going to say, if we don't pelt them with some news, they're going to feel as if we jinxed them. We came up short. So yes, please do.
Let's do it. I got a few pieces here I threw together. The news is coming out next Monday, but here's some advanced news for the CFN community. So you've probably heard about this already. Last Friday in Ottawa with President Biden up here. The federal government stepped up. They were feeling a bit of heat. The the government down in the United States has been putting a lot of money into the Great Lakes. $1 billion was announced just a few years ago for 5 years to spend on cleaning up the Great Lakes. $1 billion US. That's a lot of cash. Well, we stepped up with our own $420 million contribution that we're going to be spending on cleaning up the Great Lakes in a few ways. And I'll get into that, but $420 million is, that's not bad. That's not bad. And I'll tell you just quickly, in a nutshell, what we're dealing with here is there's about 47 areas of concern in the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence River where we know there's heavy contamination. 12 of those are in Canada. 5 we share with the United States, and the rest are within the United States. So we've cleaned up 3 in Canada so far. This $420 million is going to be spent on addressing another 12 of these really most impacted areas. So a number of them are ones within Canada, Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. And then 4 that we share with the United States will be working with them, collaborating with them to clean up those significant hotspots as well. So that's pretty significant, to $420 million to clean up the Great Lakes. This is exactly what we need. They're also looking at the blue-green algae issue. We know we're getting a lot of phosphate going into the Great Lakes, and with the Great Lakes warming up, that little bit of phosphate, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we had it under control after the 1980s, and we put in all these septic systems and sewage treatment plants, and now the water's warmer, so it takes less phosphate to create blue-green algae because of the warming water. So now we have to get this even more under control. So we're looking at 200 tons of phosphate coming out of the Great Lakes, being prevented from going into the Great Lakes. That's another promise. And so that's pretty significant as well. I think those 2 steps are just huge, and are going to make a big difference.
And we hope that they do. And I guess the only concern I have, Lawrence, and I'm sure others that are listening as well probably have, Lawrence, or have concerns as well, Lawrence, is that how do we gauge, or how do we make sure they follow through with this commitment? I would say that both of them are near the end of their political reign. I'm sure for all those who are not fans of Mr. Trudeau, Premier Trudeau, are wishing that would come to an end sooner than later. But needless to say, they are at sort of the pinnacle of their political career. How do we make sure, how do we gauge, how do we police that they follow through with their commitments?
There's so many, like I follow all these committees and commissions that are bilateral, binational, the Great Lakes Executive Commission, the Great Lakes Committee, the Great Lakes Fisheries Commission, the International Joint Commission. That's just 4. These are high-level political commissions and committees and coalitions that are in place to identify, develop work plans. But what in the end, you can get the scientists to figure out what needs doing. You can get the political will and build that up amongst the 8 states and Ontario that cover the shores of the Great Lakes. But in the end, it still comes down to money, right? If you want to actually do the heavy lifting and clean things up and make things better, it takes money in the end. You can have politicians lined up, but in the end, it still takes money. And that's what we're getting, more money to spend on this, more money than we've ever seen before. So this is fantastic news. Everyone's pretty happy. It's not, no one says we're going to get over the goal line with this, but we're going to get at least halfway, if not further. And the results will be reported in a lot of commissions and coalitions and committee reports over the next number of years. They'll be watching this. These groups meet once, twice, 3 times a year, and scientists share information, bureaucrats share results, and it's all verified and fact checked. So there's a ton of eyes on this, a ton of eyes.
Well, that's good. And you know what? Let's not dampen the mood. This has been the most positive show we've had so far. No, I'm just kidding. But needless to say, yes, nothing negative could be taken in right now. I think we all have a positive shield on. So let's be with the positive side of things. Let's be optimistic and hope that they do follow through, and we're all benefits from it.
Yeah. So another piece of the news, just to follow up on that, there's also some of that money is also going to be spent on halting the spread of invasive species. And if you've been following Bluefish Radio over the last week or so, you've seen a lot of information being shared in podcasts and articles on the spreading of invasive species. And I'm not talking ships and their bilges, and I'm not talking the Asian carp coming up the Mississippi River. I'm talking about the role we play in spreading invasive species, and we know that now. It's scientifically verified, and the things we're doing now to stop this. Now that we know, we're all doing things a little differently, but what a seismic change in the way we are fishing, and we're moving around from one fishing body to another with our boats, with our equipment, with our kayaks, with our minnow buckets. We're having to take so much more safeguards to stop this, and understanding the significance of that is just huge. So, please feel free to check out those resources we shared through Bluefish Radio, through Bluefish Canada over the last 10 days. Please share that information. This is something, I think a lot of anglers that aren't listening to CFN may not be fully aware of the role we need to play and the things we need to stop doing, the things we need to start doing. So there's a lot of blueprints there, a lot of information there that we pumped out in the last 10 days, and please make sure it gets around and people get the news. And it's up to all of us to educate people about this now, because really we're now the ones that are taking these invasive species out of the Great Lakes and spreading them, to the next body of water over that we go and fish in. And then those people that live at those places, they'll then take the invasive species and spread them even further into the rural parts of Canada. So this is a sort of a domino thing that we've got to stop. We've got to stop it, and it's in our hands. It's in our power to do this. So yeah, we all have a role to play.
100%. And if you missed this and you want to find more podcasts just like this at Bluefish Radio and Bluefish Canada, please reach out to Lawrence or go to those two above mentioned links. And there's a plethora of these podcasts just like this one, and a whole bunch more with some very entertaining and knowledgeable folks that are included. Again, it's a wealth of knowledge. Please tap into it, become educated, and be aware. Just like Jay is, he's just mentioned that the glyphosate levels have been increasing in Lake Erie, more so in the Western Basin. He's given us a couple links that we can follow, but to hear that it's increased 5 times.
Yeah,
from 1994 to
and it's linked to the zebra mussels. The zebra mussels don't like it. They'll clean out all the other elements when they're filtering the water, but they release the phosphate back into the water, and that's where we're getting these huge blue-green algae blooms now. Is because of it's hide. Well, it's actually getting into the water, but it's not being taken out of the water by the zebra mussels. They're actually releasing it back into the water. So
I didn't know that, Lawrence.
Oh yeah. No, this is proven now. This is scientifically proven. We were wondering what the hell is going on, and the scientists figured this out. And it's all along the shallow shorelines of Lake Erie, where zebra mussels cluster in real high density, because they don't really get down much below 20 feet in depth, the zebra mussels. So this is there's a strong linkage there as well. Right. Hey, I got another piece of news here. I'm going to give you guys a heads up on another bit of information. So we're talking to an author, Canada's representative on our fly fishing team that's going to the Commonwealth Games next year, and a psychotherapist who does outdoor therapy. And we've got them on the podcast, and we just released the audio version of that just on the weekend. And it's all about, what do you get from when you go in the outdoors? How do you benefit from that? How does it, strengthen you physically, mentally, socially, in many ways, physically. And then how do you prepare? Like, how do you get that mindset, in terms of winning a competition? How do you prepare for those heavy competitions? And then just being mindful, like when you are in the outdoors, what do you leave behind when you step into the outdoors? And we're all good at doing this, right? We all get out there and we leave our cares and concerns behind, and we've come back feeling so refreshed. So we've got a lot of experts talking on this podcast. Three of these experts have joined us on the podcast, and we'll write that up in the next issue of Bluefish News. That'll be out on Monday, April 3rd, but you guys have a heads up on this now. So you check that out. If you just Google that on your Apple podcast. And if you like what you hear, leave us some comments. And also, like I said, check out the Jeff Gustafson one too on the Outdoor Canada magazine website. And he talks a lot about that as well, the mental preparation. I think this is important, that as we're getting ready for open water season and coming out of one of the grayest winters we've had in years in terms of sunlight, at least here in this part of Canada, getting our mental game together and getting in that kind of conditioning ourselves mentally, physically, in all aspects to go out there and really make the most of the open water season.
Yeah, no, 100%. I couldn't have said it better myself, Lawrence. And as always, you bring a wealth of information. One thing that Jay Kerman has brought up here, and I didn't realize this fly fishing team at the Commonwealth Games, was that always a thing, or is this new?
I don't know. But did you even know there was such a thing?
I didn't. So
me neither.
Jay Kerman, I can guarantee you next week we'll be talking about this and many other news snippets that Lawrence brings to us as he does each and every Monday. And Lawrence, again, on behalf of our entire community, thanks for sharing your time and your knowledge.
My pleasure, man. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about the Bassmaster with Jason and Big Jim.
Right on. Coming up right after this. Thanks again, Lawrence. Thanks so much.
Right, cheers.
Have a great week, buddy. Here's another snippet from this past weekend.
Hey, Canadian in the house. Matter of fact, Ken Duke, bass historian, told me something very, very interesting. You may know this by now, but the very first Canadian to qualify for the Bassmaster Classic was a man by the name of Hank Gibson in 1990. He finished dead last. Now we're 30-something years later. We have a passel of amazing Canadian anglers, and Jeff Gustafson just won the biggest trophy in bass fishing. So congratulations, our second ever international angler, our very first, of course, from the amazing country of Canada. So congratulations on that. With that
in itself, like, we're not cheering on one, we're cheering on several. Yeah. Like, to me, that's amazing. And to someone like Jim, who knows firsthand how incredible that is, for someone like myself who sort of sees it from the outside in, even I get how incredible that is. But Jay, welcome to the show as always, my friend. Love to hear your take on what has been a historic, and we will never forget this weekend.
Yeah, so I didn't get much done this weekend, Scotty. There was no fishing accomplished, and literally, okay, so I kind of thought Gussy was going to win the whole weekend after day one. So Gussy, I'll give you the quick 30-second recap for those who didn't watch it like I did. I watched every minute of Bass Live. If I didn't watch it, it was in my pocket of my hoodie. I was listening to it like constantly. Day one, Gussy started out slow, and he caught his weight on day one, 17 and change. He caught it in 25 minutes. It was like a flurry. Left his spot and spent the rest of the time pre-fishing, but he only had about 3 or 4 spots that he wanted to fish, and it was all smallmouth. He decided it was going to be smallmouth. That's how he won in 2019 when they were there, or 2021, sorry. Anyways, so fast forward to day two, he struggled a bit. Got his 5 fish. He had 18 pounds on day 2, but it was still a slow process. And then, but he goes into day 3 with a 6-pound lead at the Classic on a stingy fishery. And you're like, if he can just get a limit, he's got it. Like, you would need someone else in the field. I was doing the math all day. You needed someone in the field to catch a 25-pound bag. And the angler, a second place angler on day 2, who's one of my favorite anglers in the world, is John Cox. And yeah, he's a Berkeley guy, but honestly, he is a stand-up guy. Like, he is just the nicest human. And how is he doing it? He was fishing largemouth, right? And so just so everyone understands too, we went down there. You guys were there too. It got real warm when you guys were there, right? So it went from freezing temperatures the weekend before right into spring. So Gussy knew his fish in those deep smallies were going to eventually leave and go to the banks. Most of the rest of the field were fishing for largemouth, hedging that they would go to the banks early. So it was this great contrast between Gussy's deep smallmouth pattern and the shallow largemouth pattern. And on day 3, Gussy only caught 2 fish. So I was doing the math, but on Bass Track, it's all approximate weights, but you can sit there and go, well, he might have it. Because like Jimmy, we were talking, you're talking in part of the show, he got 2 fish. One of those fish was a 4-pounder. He didn't even blink at it. It went right in the well. I saw that. I said to Trevor, that's a 4-pounder for sure. And the other one was over 3. It was because there was an 18-inch limit on smallmouth. It had to be 18 inches for the Tennessee River. So every smallmouth you catch is pretty much a 3-pound smallmouth at 18 inches, 3+. So anyways, he ended up winning with 1 pound, 7 ounces. That's how it was all. Like, could you imagine having only 2 fish? And the one video I sent you, we don't have to show it. I'll share it in the chat. It shows how he was fishing. This was on day 3 when he caught one of his fish using Mega Live forward-facing sonar. He hooks it. There's 5 other fish in that same school. He couldn't get them to bite. Like, these fish were completely in a negative mood. It was amazing to watch that. Like, so some people find that boring. It's not the same as throwing a buzzbait or a frog and watching the, the top water explosion. But I thought it was cool watching Gussy on that forward-facing sonar, and he stuck with it. And then kudos to John Cox, and because he went out in this event, not in pre-fish, not catching a fish. He even was interviewed saying, he laughed at Bass, why are you putting a camera guy in my boat? I haven't caught a fish all week. You're crazy. Yeah. He didn't turn on his electronics other than checking water temperature. He just fished the bank, pounded the bank with crankbaits and chatterbaits, and came almost, he ended up faulting on day 3. But what a contrasting, just so much fishing going on in so many different ways. Just 100%. A great event.
So, Jay, to your point, I did put a little video together that explains a little bit about the presentation that he had and goes into a little bit of detail, but it actually shows the video that you're talking about. So have a listen.
1 rod lure combo for the weekend, and for me, sort of the same deal as last time. We got a Z-Man scented jerk shad, smelt nader head, Gamakatsu hook. Fishing that on an NRX Plus 872 7.3 medium action spinning rod. Best all around spinning rod in my opinion. X-Sense reel, 10-pound Power Pro, 10-pound Mastiff fluorocarbon leader. So this is the new fluorocarbon we got from Shimano. Just like all their rods and reels, top-notch stuff, primo stuff. It's been great. I've been fishing it hard for the last week or so, and been really.
Yeah. So if everyone's watching that bottom right screen,
yeah,
there's 3 fish right there. His fish is already at the surface.
Yeah.
There's 1, 2, 3. You can, and by the time it goes through, there's 5 fish in that screen, and he's been on that spot for hours, and he finally got one to bite. That's how his day was. Kudos to his patience. Amazing
100%.
Stuff, primo stuff. It's been great. I've been fishing it hard for the last week or so, and been really happy with it, and it's happy that it's part of my arsenal moving forward.
Look at that school of fish swimming away. Like, unbelievable. That's so cool.
So true. So if you're watching, I noticed that too, Jay, and yeah, absolutely.
Throw and hope for a bite. Not really the case anymore.
And what a 1 rod Todd. Like, literally, he fished, like, other than he had a couple different lengths of that bait from Z-Man. He talked about he used a 3.5 and a 4, and he changed the jig head weight a little bit, but almost all his fish came on that 4-inch, which is honestly, for a jerk shad, it's a pretty long bait, to be honest, for that. But that's what works for Gussy for sure. And a 3/8 ounce head in 20 to 25 feet of water. A 3/8 ounce head, it gets down there, but that's a lot of patience. A lot of patience. It's incredible.
Talk to us about that, Jim. How it is to be completely unorthodox. Well, I wouldn't say completely unorthodox, but of course you are going against the grain. You're doing something that most participants are not, but it's working, and how important it is to stick with what's working.
Well, when I won my second classic here in Aurelia, I basically stuck with people thought, you're fishing with a crankbait, are you nuts? Nobody did that here yet. Oh, that's an American thing. Nobody did that here yet. And I got crankbaits sitting on the deck. I had 4 or 5 rods with crankbaits. There's only one that I used. because it was a fiberglass rod. It wasn't a graphite. And I'll never forget too, after I won the classic with that, and Tom Brook was at the house one day and he said, you know, the homemade rod has to go. So I gave it to my buddy. Actually, my buddy Bill Chambers up in North Bay has it. I gave it to him, and I gave him the lure too. You've heard me talk about that, you know, saying, well, here, do you want it? Take it. I'm not a material guy. Now you try to get that black I got last week off me, that could be a different thing.
Forget it.
I might have to bring the left hand out again.
That's hilarious. But to your point, Jim, it's So he like Jay said, a one-trick pony. He virtually didn't throw anything else other than what he just showed us, and managed to present it in ways that might be a little bit unorthodox for folks who fish bass, not for us who fish walleye. That mopping is something that we've always done. Hanging it just over their heads, waiting for that reaction bite, is something that we're used to. But again, you know, unless you have full faith in what you're doing, it's a hard bait to have patience and wait for it to work. On that note, though, and Jim, you can attest to this, when we walked into the event that was eventually Jim's induction in the Hall of Fame, there was a few anglers that popped in, obviously, to give Jim, a hug and congratulations. And the one thing that Jim and I said when we left that night, there was one person that showed confidence. And Jim, that was Gustafson.
When he was sitting, that picture I have him sitting in front of me, I think he's talking to Lee Branscombe. I think he's talking to Lee. I'm not sure, but I think it was who he was talking to. And he just sort of has an air of, here, I'll find the picture on my phone. So he just sort of has an air of, and you can never use the word cocky with Jeff Gustafson.
No.
It doesn't exist.
While he's looking for that, Jay, I'll paint the picture for you. And I love the boy, Cooper Gallant. He came in and you could just tell that he was struggling trying to find fish. But that was our good buddy. Like,
that's him there.
No fear.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
It's just so cool to see him like that. He was
I think Gussie going into the event, because he has never not led an event on that lake. So he's been there.
Scary,
He's fished there 7 days in his life, in a tournament, 7 days. He's practiced there. So at all 7 days, he's been the leader, the lead dog all 7 days. And that's just confidence, because he knows. I think he knew going into that event, the way the weather was, that event was his to lose.
Oh, yeah.
That weather was shaping up. And he knew as the week went on, the weather was going to change and those deep smallmouth were going to start to scatter and head shallow. He knew the window was going to close, but he also knew if he could just catch 5 smallmouth a day, he had enough to win. He knew that. Like, that's guaranteed 17 to 18 pounds a day for a pretty stingy fishery. Like, he could get beat by largemouth, sure, but it wasn't likely given the weather in that time of year. Another week with spring weather, whole different situation. It was just
he told me there was big groups. He said he had like 12, 15 fish. You already saw that one group you were talking there narrating 4, 5, 6 fish, and there was several others they showed that were 3 or 4 that you could see. They had already started, they were still out there, but I think they were sort of eyeing, subconsciously eyeing the bank. But it's so funny, like I take a picture of him sitting in front of me and he wins the classic. And the last time that I took a picture of Jeff sitting in front of me was in the boat.
Yeah.
And he went down and won the elite that he won there. So I'm going to have to start taking pictures of him sitting in front of me more often.
Yeah.
He'll have to fly in here first, get the picture, and then go win.
Where's your big check, Jim?
I know.
But honestly though, like the way that event shaped up, I really think that for Gussie, Jim, you put it the right way. He is not cocky, but he's a confident angler, and I think that but you'll never find a more, like, even him. He's so Canadian. Like, I've been down south a ton fishing and attending events and conferences and things like that through Bass and other organizations. When you hear him on stage talking and he's got his kind of goofy accent, he's got that goofy laugh, and then he's talking about his Canadian friends, his Aussie friends, he's multicultural, let's go party, drink some beers. He is as Canadian as it gets. Like I've watched that video of that weigh-in, I'm not joking, a dozen times in the past 24 hours, and I'll watch it a dozen more in the next day. But what I love is just how genuine a person he is. It's all out there, and and then him hugging his wife Shelby and going on the boat with here at the house, the four of us yesterday, we made chicken wings. It was Super Bowl Sunday yesterday. We cooked chicken wings in the garage. We had a big wing up. We watched the Super Six, which is, if you haven't watched the classic, you need to watch the Super Six is where it's at. And we watched all of it here, and we were all crying. We were all crying when Gussy won, but I knew he won before he won. Like I knew the numbers, but it was just incredible. And then he's such a gracious person. I will say this though, and you guys might not have caught this on Friday night. When Gussy was leading the event, he's standing there on stage. He's looking up at the audience, and the audience in the arena is pretty small on the Friday night. Each day it gets fuller and fuller. He's just like, he's standing there, and he's like, I love Knoxville. I love bass fishing. I love all you people. I even love you, Mercer. And he hugged Mercer. Like, just, that's Gussy. That is just who he is. That is not that is not fake. That is 100% who Gussy is. And like that whole love speech he gave on Friday night, I knew like that's karma. That's just all of it. It was going to happen. It was going to happen.
Well, I can say this with Jim in the room and a part of the broadcast right now. Jim has a special place in his heart for all Canadian anglers. And it doesn't matter if your last name's Johnson, if your last name's Gallant. But I will say this, his eyes lit up when Gussy walked in the room. No questions about it.
Oh, yeah.
There is a candle there. There's a bond between these two that is unique. And I'll tell you, Gussy winning was just like watching Jim win. That for me anyway.
Well, Scotty, I'll be driving down to Hortons in the morning or something, and it'll be 5 a.m. and my phone will ring and it's Gussy. What are you doing, big guy? We just have a chat. He's driving somewhere, and that kind of stuff. But the thing that really, this is the best photo of the whole thing to me. There isn't a better. Look at the smile on his face. Look at Shelby. Just, she's got the flycatcher open. Like, I mean, she's just like, she's just in awe. It's just, I've looked at this picture. I know I heard Jay saying about you've watched it several times. I'm going to need a couple of days of drinking lots of water and stuff because I'm dehydrated from crying. I can't afford to have any more tears.
Now, I got to share one picture. So before COVID hit, Trevor and I went down to the Classic at Guntersville, and on day one of that event, Gussy didn't have a very good day, and Trevor and I had the pleasure of working backstage, and I have this picture. Look at that. And now Trevor's like 2 feet taller now. I showed Heather last night. Gussy had a tough day. Look at the smile on Gussy's face. When I asked him, I said, Gussy, do you mind if we do a picture? He goes, of course, man. He jumped out of that boat so fast. And it was, in that picture of Trevor and Gussy, like I showed Trevor, he's like, oh my God, I look like I'm 10 there. I'm like, well, you were actually like 11 when the picture was taken. Okay. But like he had a tough day, Gussy, and you didn't even know it. You thought he was leading the Derby when a kid wanted his picture. Like, just amazing,
I got to ask you, because both of you have done tournaments at all kinds of levels. Jim, obviously, at a higher level than most of us. But I got to ask, with the situation that Gussy was in on the last day, how long of a ride home was that 45-minute boat ride?
It was different time zones.
Yeah.
It was different time zones. Like, I mean, he must have just been, he must have been ready to put the anchor around his neck and just roll off the back and let the boat go back on its own. Like, I couldn't imagine that because they don't know. And I don't know how they separate them at the back so they can't find out. They must keep them apart. pretty good and just keep them away from their phones. Like
Yeah,
obviously
they'll do that. They basically when the top six are, so the way they do it at the Bassmaster Classic is when the top six are, they do the Super Six contest. So what it is they weigh in the top. So the field's cut from, in this case, 55 over 2 days, and then the top 25 fish on day 3, which makes it really cool because there's been some big comebacks over the years of guys not even in the top 10 who have roared and won. It's happened. But what they do is they hold back those 6 guys and they kind of keep them together, but they don't talk much. They kind of stay in their own boats. They don't separate them, but they don't let them intermingle too much. And a lot of these anglers they're not going to check Bass Track. And a lot of anglers are like Corey and Chris. They're the biggest sandbaggers on Bass Track you've ever witnessed. Like, you've ever watched Bass Track, they are such sandbaggers. We all have friends who are sandbaggers. Everyone who fishes has sandbagger friends. I've been known to sandbag once in a while too. And, but they don't get to see. It really is a surprise. And if you watch the weigh-in itself, it's about 2 hours long. Skip to the Super Six and watch that. Scott Canterbury. Scott Canterbury he's an amazing angler. He jumped onto the Elites 4 years ago, won Angler of the Year. That's one of the hardest things to do. He was going head-to-head with Jeff Gustafson this year. I know Brian Schmidt came in second, but I thought Canterbury really had a chance. John Cox, another one. Like, these guys are the best of the best of the best. And Gussy that rose to the top of them all.
And
you heard Scott Canterbury say, but he wasn't going to fish. He didn't. I'm not going to try to compete against him for what he does.
Yeah.
And Scott Canterbury's no slouch of an
he was
angler.
crying on stage because he knew why Scott Canterbury was crying. He knew he missed the opportunity because to be in the Classic is an achievement, just to be there and make it. And then to have an opportunity to win a Classic, that's so rare. And then to win one, like, that's how you got to put yourself. So these grown anglers, experienced anglers are, they're like, weak in the knees because they knew they couldn't close the deal. Right. It's powerful to see that, and to see Scott Canterbury crying on stage, like, choking up because he's choking up because it was a missed opportunity. All those guys missed it, but Gussy didn't. Although Gussy thought he did. That's what killed me. Like, he knew if he had 5, if he must have known if he had a limit of smallmouth in the boat, like, he might as well come back like Tim Horton and sit on the dock at Lake Champlain and order some double cheese.
Well, he said he would have, eh?
I bet he would have. I bet he would have for sure.
Got back early to be sure you get there, right? Because he had to stop for gas. But I got to tell you one thing: Scott Canterbury was at the meeting there at at my party.
Yeah,
I've never seen anybody eat like that. Like, he ain't that big of a guy. I must have looked up to it, like, don't go to a buffet with that guy and have a bet on how many plates you can knock off. It was incredible. He must have eaten 10 of those slider things. It's just a guy's just a machine.
But what's amazing about that event, though, the event, like your event, Jim, and the Classic itself, it's an event where you wander around and everyone is they're available to you. Like, if you stay at the hotel, like, I highly recommend, if you go to the Classic, if you go, put the money aside, stay at one of the main hotels. Like, the one day, I'll give you a good example. I was in meetings at a conference there for the conservation directors a couple years ago, right? Trevor was there with me by himself. He's old enough. He can go to the expo was connected to the hotel. So he would just go back and forth. He's texting me. He's like, Dad, I'm in the elevator with Rick Clunn. like, Dad, I just shook Kevin Van Dam's hand in the walkway between the hotel and these guys are just there. They're there. If they're not fishing, they're there for you. They're there for the fans. Like, all the anglers are like that. It's an amazing place. Go and enjoy it and just soak it in. Like, Jim, Terry Brown?
Yeah.
Like, he is one of my idols. Terry Brown is one of the founders of Wired to Fish. And so he's a little bearded guy. He kind of he doesn't seem like much. Kind of inconspicuous is the word I'd use for Terry Brown, you know? One day he was in the elevator with me at the hotel. I said, Terry Brown, Jason Barnucz, you don't know who I am. I just want to shake your hand. We ended up having coffee in the lobby and talking, you know, after that. Like, that's what the Classic is about. One of my favorite Classic stories, and I don't want to take away from this too much, but I went for the hotel breakfast one day, which was super expensive. I said, no, I'm going to have the hotel buffet. And I was sitting there, and if you guys ever had biscuits and gravy down south, biscuits and gravy? Okay.
Yeah, they had it at the hotel, but I passed on it. So did Scotty.
All right. So I was about to pass the biscuits and gravy on this one trip. So I'm at the buffet. I see the biscuits and gravy, and I hear a voice behind me. And I hear this voice say, son, what you think of that biscuits and gravy? And I look over my shoulder. It's Ray Scott, cowboy hat. And then as I go to walk forward, an arm comes over and goes, I'm getting some of that biscuits and gravy. It was Forrest Wood in a cowboy hat. I was between Forrest Wood and Ray Scott having biscuits. I took biscuits and gravy that morning. I never have since, but I'm like, I need to have biscuits and gravy today because I just had this little run-in with Ray Scott and Forrest Wood, who have both passed now. You know what I mean? Like, that's what the Classic's about. The Classic is about classic moments. That's what I tell a lot of my friends who are on the fence about going. It's worth going and just seeing everyone and soaking it all in. And I got a little bit of regret not being there this year for what happened, but there's going to be some more moments coming up, some more classic moments coming up for sure. So
yeah, you know, somebody we can't forget too that's been to the Classic is Charles Sim.
Oh yeah,
he hasn't been mentioned. Like, I mean, Gussy and Johnson's have been there. What is it, Jay? Is it like 4 years in a row now?
20. So the way the story works, so Charles made it. He qualified in 2016.
Yeah.
Just in Grand Lake, Oklahoma. Made it to day 3. Made the top 25. Like, that's awesome. And then in 2019 was the big switch with MLF. And that's when Gussy and Corey and Chris got their invitations to come over to the elites. So since 2019, those 3 have been, I think they've been every Classic since, Jimmy. Yeah. You know, and then this year Cooper's there. So now I thought Cooper was the youngest angler, but he's not, because I forgot there's this year, and they do this every year. The best college anglers from last year get invitation to the Classic. And then there was another angler who was 21 or just turned 21.
21. Just turned 21.
Yeah. You know, like
he was about the size of a pop can, and I'm not saying this to slight him by any means, but you know, all we kept saying to ourselves is we're looking around going, this kid is 21 and he's at the Bassmaster Classic. Yeah. What were we doing when we were 21? Minus Jim McLaughlin, of course.
And I gotta say this too about the Canadians, you know, and this, please don't take anything against Gussy, Corey, and Chris. But, you know, they did get invited, and they deserve to be invited. And I'm so happy they're at Bass. Cooper qualified to go to the Classic. Like, so let's backtrack. Cooper wasn't supposed to be there this year because he won one Open last year. That's how we got in. It was winning an Open is a bit of a lottery ticket, right? So Cooper qualified, though, to fish the elites. That's one of the hardest things to do in bass fishing. And Cooper's already made 2 cuts on the elites. He's on track to make the Classic next year. And Cooper is just, you know, and he didn't, I think he finished in 51st out of 55 this year. And you know what? That is going to light a fire under his ass. Like, he is going to come back swinging, you know, especially seeing Gussy win.
Yeah.
You know, and Cooper's not, and this doesn't mean he's thinking bad thoughts. That's just motivation. Straight up. Like, I'm excited for Cooper now because of Gussy's win. Because Cooper's coming out of the, he's getting ready to win next year. And the next year it's in Grand Lake, Oklahoma.
Because I'll be honest, as Canadian anglers, none of these guys are slouches when it comes to us being a smallmouth bass angler. And to have Gussy claimed by all of the folks at Bassmaster as the best smallie angler on the circuit, as you said, it's going to light a fire under, you know, the Johnsons, and I'm sure Cooper as well.
You know what makes Gussy dangerous? is Gussy's become really good friends with Jason Christie.
Yep.
Like Gussy, he's friends with so many of the guys, and he has started to align himself with. It sounds like I'm getting dramatic, but damn, I watch this like this is reality TV for me. Like some people watch like The Bachelor and crap. I watch professional bass fishing. Gussy, it's because Shelby and Jason's wife have become friends, and this is what happens on the circuit. Gussy is knowing Gussy, and Jim, you would know better. He's hanging out with Christie. Christie's he's like a stone cold killer in a bass boat. Gussy is probably just soaking in Christie's winning ways.
He's the guy that came back from FLW, and you remember the commercials with him? Where he's standing like this and he says, I've got some unfinished business. That's why he came back to Bassmaster. And he came back. The first year he wins the Elite. He wanted to win one. The next year he wins the Classic. Then he gets to hand the trophy to Gussy.
Yeah.
Stone cold killer is the word.
Yeah.
But it was really cool when I was down there. I got a thing. It was neat because I had people come and talk to me and share time. They brought the guy over who owns BSS. Basically, I guess he must be the major shareholder to talk to me.
Yeah.
And the guy talks to me for like 15 minutes, like we're old buddies. I couldn't believe it. Like,
Oh, that's cool. Nice.
Yeah, Jay mentioning it. And then Pete Robbins, the Bassmaster writer.
Yes.
He came over to me and he said, oh, wow, Big Jim, I know I look at Just Fishing. And he says, I can't believe the guys that you have writing for you there. And I said, I got the best lineup of writers of any magazine in the world. He looks at me, he goes, I can't argue with that. Like, this is the guy that writes for this, and it was cool. But then the guy who's the publisher for In Fisherman came over to me. And he introduces himself and he says, Jim, I talked to Doug Stange. He says, he says, you're a great guy. And he says, obviously Doug was right, and whatever. And he says, I don't really know you in that. If I can ever help you, here's my card. So we did the old card exchange thing and whatever. And then when I had my little speech and I talked about being number 0008 on the In Fisherman, when it all started, he looks at me out. He's standing out there. He goes like this, like that, because he knows that thing's going to get played a million times. I mean, I've got some things here right now on social media that have one has 68,000 views.
So cool, man.
Like that's the most that I've had. And then Mazurkowitz told us, man, remember at dinner, Bill Dance's announcement got 30,000. Mine was at 67.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I don't know how that happened. I got to phone Bill and bug him.
That's hilarious. I got to tell you a funny story, Jay, real quick. Pete Robbins. So I caught Pete Robbins, and of course, I'm dressed up for the occasion. So I have to say this, and I don't mean to be disrespectful. I look like the help. So here I am at the valet parking.
You were the help, boy.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, so Pete Robbins, I could see him behind me in the truck. So I rolled down the window because I could see he's taking a picture of the license plate, and I played it up, right? I said, what, like typical Canadian, to come down here, walleye written all over his license plate. Like, how does he not know where he is? Like, what kind of individual would do this? And Pete says, you know what? I'd really like to meet the clown that would come down here and have the cojones to pull up. And I said, well, you just met him. I'm not the help. I'm the owner of the vehicle. Anyway, it was a good laugh. We had a really good.
That's so good, man. Like, yeah, I can't stress enough to everyone who's listening. And if you're talking to friends, this isn't about bass. Like, it's not just bass fishing. Go to the classic. Like, this is the outside of. So I cast in the. Let's talk just fishing. I cast in the world. Yeah, it launches a lot of the new products, but it's mainly for media. It's not for the common person to go. Like, I wouldn't go to iCast. Like, I've heard it's actually, for a lot of my friends at Pure Fishing, I've heard it's actually kind of boring. Like, it's very media central. You can't intermingle as a person of the public. Mm-hmm. And of all the trade shows, the Bassmaster Classic is the biggest one. You don't need to be a hardcore bass angler to enjoy the Bassmaster Classic. You don't. And there's so many things to do there. Like, you can go to the launch if you want to. You don't have to. Sometimes the launch, the lake where it's held, is sometimes 45 minutes or an hour away from the main arena where the weigh-in's gonna happen. But I have to stress this: everything at the Classic is free in terms of admission. So they have shuttle buses. You can get from your hotel to the shuttle bus, to the expo, to the arena. Like basically it's so free. You can have a beer in the aisle, and I can look at all the brand new stuff. And a lot of the companies, and I'm going to say majority of the companies, save stuff for the Classic as their launch. It used to be just ICAST. Now the Classic is like, let's launch these at ICAST and launch these at the Classic. It is, as an angler, it's worth going. And with view about Knoxville, you know, it's 9 hours from 8 hours from the Windsor border. 100%. Like it's the closest you'll get. Grand Lake is 16 hours. That's doable, but it's a long day. But I got to encourage people to go to the Classic for sure.
As Marcus is saying, and you know, at the end of the day, we could pretty much wrap it up. We could go on all night about what happened this past weekend to both Jim, Gussy, and all the other participants. Who's in for next year? Well, all I can say is after experiencing some of it for the first time, I'd really like to go back and see what it is from start to finish. I'm in it. I'm just hoping that we've got some Canadian anglers that are participating in it next year as well.
I think we will have Canadian anglers. All they have to do is make that top cut every tournament, and I think they're already in good position. So you know what? There's always going to be a Canadian in that Classic for the next few years. I will bet on it. So it's worth packing your flag and going to the Classic. And I'll be going. I missed this year, first year in a while because there was COVID and stuff. But I'm going to Grand Lake next year. I've done that drive before. I'll do it again. I'm going.
Well, the next drive that I do is going to be to Springfield, the Bass Pro Shops.
Oh,
to see.
So by the way, Jim, I've already done the math. That's on the way to Grand Lake, Oklahoma. Just so you know. Just
to see my plaque on the wall in the Walk of Fame. And they told us the people that,
on that road. I've already checked it. I already checked it for you.
Uh-oh. Strapped me to the roof like a moose. Here we go. I know. Let's go. Scratching the mosquitoes off my teeth when I get there. But I want to go. And they told us the people that are making the image that goes on the plaque to go on in the Hall of Fame walk is made by the same people that make the Heisman trophies.
Yes.
So they have a picture of me with the one leg up and the hand out holding a 5-pounder in my arm. Just kidding.
Unreal.
It's a 6-pounder.
Listen, you two, again, I can't thank you enough each Monday joining us like you do, and what you bring to our platform, our community, and, of course, our family. Jim, again, it can't be said enough for all you've done for everyone in the fishing industry, our CFN community, and those who come here each and every Monday. We are not only just proud to know you, we're proud to be Canadian. We're proud to be a Canadian angler. And I'll tell you, from my own perspective, dude, you got me into fishing. Fisherman was for you. You're the reason I fish and the reason I do this. So again, I can't thank you enough, my friend. And thanks for sharing your time.
Scotty, I love you, brother, and I could never repay you. But there's one trip that I do have to do, and this came up on when we left Scotty's house. Was I saw this place in Brampton.
Oh yeah.
So we have to go to the Walk of Fame.
You're on.
I sent a picture to Chong. He right back to me. Ding, 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 ding. Back to me. Where is that?
That's hilarious.
To go, yeah.
That
but he called me this morning. You know, I thought he was going to cry.
Yep.
That he wasn't there for everything. I said, no, you had to go to work. You already made a deal, and you had to go to work. You know, he was down at the show in New Brunswick, and you had to go to work, and that's when we came up with this bit about driving down there to have a look at it, because I know I had mentioned it to you, Scotty. It's something I have to go stand beside and get my picture taken.
Good man, brother. Well, as I said, I will say I volunteered to do it this time. I will volunteer to do it again next time if need be, buddy. I'll be there with you. No
if we get a van load.
There you go. Exactly. All right, gents, you have yourselves a great week. Again, thanks for all you do. Love the fact that you're CFNers and love the fact that you keep us fishing. Enjoy your week, guys.
See you guys.
Well, can't say enough. It was an experience that I can't even begin to put into words. The fact that Gussy won on such a historic weekend, as watching a good friend of mine, Big Jim McLaughlin, receive a true treasure of an induction into the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. You could not have hit it out of the park any better. So Gussy, thanks so much for doing your part, dude, for making it a Canadian thing, because it certainly was. The Bassmaster Classic was everything and then some. And to all of our Canadian participants, Coop, the Johnsons, you guys did us proud as well. It was nice to see all of you. Thanks again to Shimano for doing a fantastic job making us feel welcome. Even though we weren't at home, you guys did a fantastic job. And to all of the incredible volunteers, those who are involved in Bassmaster, the Classic, the town of Knoxville, you guys did a fantastic job. And for all of you participants and all those who show up here every Monday, they managed to hit a record attendance. So thanks again for all of that, as well as all of your comments, just being here, and your kind words. Again, it was a heck of a weekend. It's going to take a while to digest. Looking forward to CanCast next weekend. So hopefully we see you there and we can all share in a hug and maybe a tear. Dave, it's on you, baby. Take us away. You're a gem. All the best, guys. Love you. Take care. Have a great week.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must